Hey everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the tropicals are going to get a trim. So it is early Thanksgiving week, and I'm going to work on some trees that I probably could let go for several more weeks, but we're going to work on them now because of a couple of reasons. One, I noticed some really sporadic growth in some really weird directions. So we're going to cut those off so the energy isn't wasted for a branch that I know I won't keep. So when I'm looking at my trees in my plant room day to day, I notice some of this new growth, and then I get a close-up look and like, oh, that one's growing really weird. I should just cut that off. But then I stop and say, well, let's just wait, let's let the tree grow. It's only been in the plant room for a few weeks, coming up on 2 months now. Some of these Premnas and the Molinas went in that first part of October because the temps were getting down there in the 50 range. And so they've been in here for almost 2 months. And the discussion with tropical trees inside in the wintertime, a lot of us Minnesota bonsai enthusiasts love to work on trees year-round, and so we start working on some trees in the winter months. It depends upon, again, how good your plant room is, what your environment's like, do you have enough warmth and humidity and good light to have good aftercare after you've done some work. And again, are the trees even healthy enough to work on? So we are going to work on a couple of these. I got 2 Premnas, and I've got my molina, and we're just going to make a few cuts on here. So let's get going with tree number 1, and I think that's going to be the molina. So let's pull out the molina, and we'll talk a little bit about this guy. So I don't recall, I'm pretty sure this is the front that I intended. But even as I look at it right away when I grab this tree, maybe that should be the front. Just that little bit off where it was before. This is leaning a little bit more towards the camera, which is sometimes we often like trees to lean towards us, but we've got this big branch right smack in the middle of our face, so I'm pretty much assuming that this was the angle. Maybe next time though we're going to plant it up at this angle a little bit right here. So we want to look at this tree and we want to make a couple of cuts. Now, one of the reasons why I'm going to make a cut on this tree now is, one, the tree is healthy. Look at all of this massive growth on this branch here. This is all new growth. This is all new growth. Back here, this is all new growth. So the tree is healthy, the tree is growing. It has enough energy to sustain and put out new growth, and it's just doing wonderful things in the plant room. So it's a safe time for me down here to do a little bit of pruning to get this tree growing maybe in a direction that I want it to grow in. So the thing about this, really, this branch right here is it could become a nice new leader as the tree goes up this way and goes this way. This could become a nice strong leader, and we can cut this down here. Maybe this is too thick. My concern about this huge growth here, it almost looks like a sacrificial branch. And so when we grow sacrificial branches to get thickness all throughout, it's going to help get the whole tree thicker, but it's also going to maybe get this too thick right in here. And I don't know how well we can see this on the TV here on the video, but right here where this cut was made, there's a little bit of a branch that was cut back here. There's already a bulge right here. And so if I got this long branch here and these branches growing off this way, is this area just going to get really super thick up here? And I don't want it to be thick up here yet. I want this to continue to mature down here. And so maybe we cut some of that off. So instead of keeping this branch, which was the leader of this one, I have this beautiful now curve back this way with a really vigorous growth here. Maybe we cut this part off right here. Now it is going to cut off all this new growth and everything if I do that. But I think that'll also, again, weaken this tree a little bit here on the leader. And we got that off right there. That's the first decision I wanted to make. I wanted to get rid of that one and promote this new branch that's growing ever so nicely. Okay. So we went ahead and cut this branch off right there. And then, because this is so incredibly tall, we don't need all that length. And now if you look at the tree, it grows up at a slant here, and now it's starting to grow back this way here. We can have some movement up there if we even see that later on in the tree's life. Who knows? But I like making it thinner so we don't get too much thick bulkiness right down in here. So that's part of the reason why we did that right there. And there's even a little branch right here. Right here, there's this branch right here that's growing in the crack right there, which also will make that bulgy. So right there, let's get rid of that guy right there, which was growing right in here. New growth since our last prune. So we have a bit of a chop sore here. We could clean that up just a little bit. And there's some, well, there's another branch going right there. Just a little bit of cleanup right here to hopefully at some point make this junction a little bit cleaner. So right in here, we just clean that out. And this is kind of hiding it right there, so that's kind of nice that that's there. But will that create some bulkiness right there too? It could. I'll cut this leaf off right here so you can see in here. So there's a branch cut off right here. It's kind of a really dark wound right there. We had some cut paste in here and there's some scabbing going on in there. So we're going to clean up this wound a little bit more too. All right. So this one we cleaned up, and we cleaned up this one right here. They just look a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. It's going to make the healing process look that much better in the end. And again, right now this is blocking the cut a little bit here, but that might make this bulky down the road too, so I probably should cut that off because that's growing in a little crevice right there. There. So now hopefully all this kind of blends in together and heals up, and here's our new branch which had all that energy. So now we're sending the oxen back down into the tree. Now right to the left of that, your right, my left, we have this big massive new growth, and there's a new growth even growing this way. And it's all, I don't like this one going in the back, so I'm just going to cut it right off, and we're going to promote this one right here to do its growth thing. And we'll cut that right here. Let's go down even one more. And now this one in the back did the same thing. Look at back here. We got this massive split back here. I like that. I like that it grew so ferociously and created some split. We're just gonna slow it down a little bit there. And this guy back here, we're gonna slow that down too. And now if you look, back here we have these two competing with each other. Now this could come back down here and it gets out of the picture someday. So we might just leave that for now. Because right now we've almost got this pattern back here. This branch here, this branch here, this branch here, this one here. They're all kind of doing the same thing. But again, if we move this a little bit, it might not look quite as symmetrical. But I am going to cut this one off here. So I just cut this one off here, so now this one isn't such an eyesore, and I'll trim this one as well. There we go. I'm going to cut that one back. So here's this big one still. Let's go back even one further. One further. Let's trim this one up. This one's coming at us, so let's not let that go too crazy. And so there, just a little bit of nip and tuck in here. I'll let this one grow to thicken up this main branch here in case we keep this primary branch here. We're going to let it thicken up with that right there. So we'll just let that continue to grow. We'll maybe get rid of this inside branch right here. This inside branch is right there. And we'll just let that run its course. I think we're going to leave the rest of it alone because this has been in the plant room, as I said, for 6 to 8 weeks now, and we've got some new growth, so there's a lot of energy in this thing, but I don't want to go too severe on this, so we're just going to let it shoot out now and see what happens here. So there is the first prune tonight. This is the Molina, our first tree today. The second tree I thought I'd work on is one of my Premnas. So the Premnas are really loving the warmth down in the plant room. They're getting plenty of light, and they're certainly warm enough, humid enough with the fish tanks down here. The humidity is now starting to get into the 50s and 60s in the daytime due to the heat kicking in because we're getting colder here in Minnesota. So that forced air keeps it drier in here. So where we were at the 80s and 90% for the first month, now we're kicking into that 50 to 70 range, depending on where it is in the plant room. And this one's doing really well. I've got a lot of new growth here, a couple inches here, a couple inches here. We got a couple inches there. This one has about 6 inches of growth. Back here, almost 6 inches as well. So this was one of the cuttings that we got new roots from, and look at its growth. So we took these cuttings a while back. I'll make sure I put the episode number here on in post-production. But we have this tree here that's kind of taking shape. Now again, you're looking at the front right there, and it's got all this activity right in front here. But this has 2 sets of branches out here, so I don't want that as the front. But you can see we have this massive growth here that's kind of taken our eye away. We have some growth coming over this way, which is kind of nice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to stop this growth right here, because we don't want that to be blocking our view of this nice tree. And again, if this isn't the front next time, maybe it'll be the front right about there. So I wanted to trim that a little bit. We're going to let this go here and this go here to thicken all this up and just grow out. We'll see what happens. I just cleaned up one little branch there. So in this back section here, we have a super low branch down here. We're just going to cut that off. That's pretty new as well. And then right down here connected to this branch, there's a little bud right there trying to grow. We don't want that there. So we take that out. I'm going to go ahead and take this bottom one off right here. After all. There we go. So now we just have this branch kind of going this way. And we'll leave that there for now. Just a little cleanup. Okay, so that is truly the front of the tree. We got that going on. We got some wild and wacky stuff up here. So one of the reasons I want to do this tree too is we've got this weird trunk stump there, which is obviously not part of the tree anymore that we want. So we cut that guy off. And we'll clean it up a little bit. We got this nice subtle little movement in this trunk, and then it comes out this way just a little bit and then comes back up here, and then we have this nice curved branch right here. This could be the new leader of the tree. So we get this really nice curve this way, and then we could have a tree all going that way. We almost could have it windswept. We have some competing trees in the back, branches in the back here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off this left side. We'll get rid of that one. There, you see how that's opened up right there? Now that is the back of the tree. But you can see it adds texture to the tree over in general. So I'm going to leave them both on there now to get the trunk thicker. This is left on for thickness. And we get all this mess up here now, super out of proportion here. If I cut this back one shorter, if I cut this one shorter here, if I cut this one here and here, we have a much more managed tree. So if this is the front here and we got all these branches here, this one is a little bit in our face and there's a new young one right next to it. Let's cut this off and leave this one to grow now. We may not keep that in the long run either, but let's just do it for now. A dead stump there, make it a little bit cleaner. So we don't know what this tree's going to do yet, so I'm going to leave all this up here. I'm going to leave this here and here. I cleaned up my stump here and here. We thinned it out back down at the bottom, but we still have all these branches to thicken up the bottom. I really like the movement of this trunk in here, just because it kind of goes up and over and back up straight this way. Now we got this possible new leader, and we're just going to leave that one alone. So that one is Premna number 1 after the Gmelina. So tree number 2. So the last tree I'm going to work on today is one of the other Premnas. Now this one just stayed in the nursery pot. It's been in there from the beginning, and we had a whole bunch of critter chop right here. We have some chewing going on right there, but the bottom is pretty strong. We got this weird branch root growing over this way, but it was chewed up top. This root will probably come off whenever it's repotted, and we'll get rid of this root. Unless someone were to pick up this tree from the Minnesota Bonsai Society and like that root, I'm just trying to keep this tree alive after some critter chew, and we're just going to do some initial styling here now. So a couple of things I noticed about this tree right away is a couple of this branch right here going totally back that way. This one right here is the biggest eyesore. So whether that's the front of the tree or not, this one's growing back in that direction. So if this was the front, that branch wouldn't be as big of a deal. But we got all this big thick stuff up here, and we have to find some semblance of a tree here. And so remember, when you're looking at your tree, if that's not the front, maybe that's the front. Maybe this is the front. Maybe we tilt it. So I might have to tilt this one back this way a little bit to see more of the structure of that tree. And I think that's kind of the direction I'm going to go in here. We have a bit of a messy trunk down here with the critter chop. I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of these bulges here. But it's giving it some really nice looking texture. I like it. I like this gnarly bark on this one. And we have a little bit of reverse taper here. So you see how it's skinnier at the bottom here? It's skinnier down here than it is right there. So we have some reverse taper. Now there's a new root going right there, or a root growing right there. There's a couple roots intertwined back here. There's another root going off right here, right there. So that could thicken up over time. We could actually bury this. So we bury the roots. We could bury the tree to about right here and then cut this root off. And then it would come out of the ground right here. And if it came out of the ground right there, it might not look, we might lose some of that reverse taper. One of my dilemmas is if I keep this on to thicken this area up here, try to get some thicker, because this is on the inside of a curve right here, and it's not desirable when we have a bonsai tree. We don't want the growth on the inside of a tree. One of the problems I don't like about this tree right now too is this big branch was cut off, and we have this really wide, almost like a Y. So there's this thick branch and then this Y that goes up here, and it's just a really big area in here. It just looks very unnatural. And so if this was the front, which I think that's going to be the front kind of angled like that, right like that somehow, do I get rid of this tree going up and have it go to the side? Or do I keep this tall branch and get rid of this side branch? I think what I'm going to do is I don't like this as the main branch. I want this to be the main branch, I think. The way it curves up like that, I like that. So I'm actually going to cut off this one right here. And we could save that as a cutting. I'm sure it would grow pretty good. We'll keep that one as a cutting. And now we have a super ugly looking scar here. So I don't know if this was the best move or not. Time will tell with how things grow. And again, this was so mangled by a critter that if it stays alive, that's my first goal. We can worry about massive styling decisions later on. And so now if this branch is like this, we got this branch going over this way. Now it goes way to the back here. We're just going to go ahead and trim this one right there, and we'll see what this does right here with this new growth. We'll see what survives on that branch. And again, this root would probably go, and this would go right here as well. And let's just take that off right now. No need to even keep that. I don't think it's going to make it thick enough to have me want to save it. Another cutting possibility. So again, with this gnarly bark, if I'm looking at this as the possible front like this somehow, we've got this growing off to the side here, and then the main trunk coming up here. And as you look at that as the main trunk here, look at all this noise here. It's coming out at us too much. So we got to get rid of almost all of that. So here's what's a nice aggressive cut here. I can cut it back here. I'm going to cut all that off. Look at that three-way branch. Looks kind of bizarre, right? Now it still leaves this really long and leggy thing. Of course, these would never stay this long. We would cut these off anyway. I'll cut this one shorter. I'll cut this one shorter. So we could walk away from it right there. And we might. Because even if this became the front someday, even though this is where all the chew is, that tree doesn't look so bad right there. Look at that. So that as a tree is not too bad. And the way I was thinking about possibly having it this way, it's got its issues. It's still coming at us too much right here, right? So I have to really bring it back up this way. So if that was the front, this whole section would have to come off here. This is just too much in our face right here. But I kind of like the tree this way all of a sudden. And we just have to see if that scar will ever heal someday. What's nice about it though here is we got this branch coming up here. We got this nice bifurcation right here. It splits into two right there, that bifurcation there. This one could be a new leader. You see how that curves up right there? Look where this one curves up right here. We can get rid of this whole branch and we have this as the new leader. So we have this branch that wants to go this way, but nope, it's going to go back the other way. We also have this big chop right here that in time would go away. And this curve would help get rid of that. Maybe we get rid of this one somewhere down the line. So even if I like it this way, I'm still going to cut that off. So here we go. Here's the tree, and if I get rid of that, I'm okay with that. So let's get in here tight and cut that branch off. So now if this becomes the front, we'll hope that this develops into some kind of a tree over here, and this could be a primary branch down the road, but this might just be too thick and we cut it all off and we just have a tree that goes this way. We'll see what happens down here, any more back budding that might happen. If we get some of these branches to grow out here and make a pad right here and then a bigger pad up here, it could be kind of an interesting tree. It is a very wide split, and then if we do this original thought and go like this, we still have two sections. The tree's growing mainly behind us, but we can make all those cuts at a later time. And even right here, I still can cut this whole branch off. I'm keeping it for this right now. We can cut this whole thing off though and make this the leader, because this is going to be a weird junction if we're not careful. So I wonder if I should do that anyway, right now. Because that makes this all look so thick. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on that one. I think I could cut this one off, but I'm going to wait. So there is tree number 3. Premna number 2. There we have a couple of quick prunes. We had the molina that we chopped off some of the big growth and got rid of a couple of big stubs there that were not looking so great. We were able to work on this tree because it's super healthy and a lot of growth. It is almost woken up like it's springtime in here with the growth on this tree, so I felt comfortable working on it. We still have a lot of new buds that I didn't cut off, and so they're just going to keep growing. This one back here, the one I did last, is just kind of a wild, gnarly looking tree. We're just going to see what happens with this. We cut it back a fair amount. And then this one up front here, we also are going to just see what it does. We cut it back to size in a lot of areas. We got a nice little major chunk off of this main branch right here. And then we made this cut as well. So we just tidied them all up here. They're in the plant room loving life, so the trees are doing pretty good. So we're going to put these back on the shelf, and then we'll talk about some updates for today. My first update for today is the Fukien Tea. So this one has had a lot of interesting work on it in the last couple of years. The growth has been really sporadic, and I wanted to show you this tree as an update to show you what happens with a lot of trees when you bring them in from the outside elements to your plant room. A lot of time with ficus trees, a lot of the leaves will just fall right off, and then people will think that the tree is dying. What's going on? Oh my gosh, and panic might set in. This Fukien Tea has also been pretty finicky. I worked on it twice this year already, and I'm not ready to work on it again because it's not overly healthy. I believe it's okay, and it's relatively healthy, but it doesn't look very appealing right now because it's made this transition into my plant room. So back in January of this year, first week in January, we gave this thing a big haircut. So if you look around the tree, you'll notice some of the real nice little tiny white flowers. They're in several spots. White flowers are looking nice and pretty. Got some ones that are dying off now. They've kind of lived their life and they're falling off. Got a couple dead ones up here. I'll go ahead and give it a spin for you now. I believe you're looking at the back of the tree actually. And this might be the front. I'll take a peek at that myself. So that. Or that. So this is the hard front before, but if I go like this in the repot in the spring, I've got a tree with a little bit more, and if I could even tilt it this way a little bit more. Let's get my, there, how about that? How does that look? So we had the beautiful flowers and the new growth, and it had been grown in the plant room after something like this, where the leaves kind of had fallen off. It looked stressful, and then by January this was green and white flowers were blooming. I knew the tree was healthy. I could do some work on it, and so in January we did cut it back. And then I made the transition outside. It didn't lose a lot of leaves then, but then it took a little while for it to grow again. But by June we had a whole tree again that was getting bushed out, and we had to do some work. So this is the footage from June. Let's go back to June and see that. It's been about 5 months since we worked on the Fukien Tea. Just after the new year, I pruned it down in the plant room and wanted to see if we were going to be able to let this thing grow, because it's been a little finicky down in the plant room. Usually I get this kind of growth outside after it's been outside for about a month. Then it goes crazy and I bring it indoors and wonder what to do with it. The craziest thing about this tree right now is this right here. This branch comes here and then boom, I mean this is about as 90 degree as you can get right here. The leaves are covering it up. So check out the playlist of the Fukien Tea. You can see all of its work from the beginning until now. And so here we are sitting in the fourth week in November here. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, and this one is looking a little bit sickly. Now the reason why is all the leaves have fallen off since we brought it into the plant room. So it came into the plant room about a month and a half ago or so, and it didn't do much change for the first couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden, yeah, he did something to me. He moved me. I was so happy outside. I'm just going to drop all my leaves. So I've dropped my leaves, and it's just not ready to have any work done. So oftentimes in the shows that I've put on for you and things you've probably heard elsewhere, we want to work on our trees when they're super duper healthy. And this one is not super duper healthy. Now I think the roots are healthy, and I think we've got a decent structure here after all these prunes this last year. But because there's not a lot of new growth and pushing out like maybe a springtime trim, or after the leaves have hardened off after a push out, this is after the stress of a new place and the leaves are falling off. And so we're just going to hold off a little bit. Now, I notice, of course, right away that there's branches crossing here. There's some really branches crossing right here, and right here. And there's all kinds of wild, crazy growth in here that I just want to go in here and start hacking away. But we're not going to hack away yet. We're going to keep this thing watered. We're going to monitor it. We're going to make sure it's getting plenty of light. And we're going to wait for this thing to start growing some more, and then we'll prune it. I'm assuming we'll start pruning this thing in January or February after we get another month, 2 months of growth on here, when the new leaves start shooting out and it's looking like it's going to grow. So anytime I start to see that new push of growth, I know that energy is really stored up and back, ready to push out new growth, and then we can maybe do some trimming on the Fukien Tea. So here is the Fukien Tea after a prune in January and a prune in June. June 29th, I believe, is when we put that show out. And so it's had about 4 or 5 months to do this, but it had the transition in here. So there's update number 1. It is the Fukien Tea. My second update is on the stand, my redwood forest stand, right? I got a redwood here that I made into a stand, and I've got my grape wood pot that I'm making. So I'm going to talk about those. So first I was able to do some final touch-up on the stand. It's looking all nice and shiny, and it's looking pretty good. I did my touch-up spots on the spots that weren't quite as shiny, and so we've got some of those touched up, and they're looking a little bit better. So the stand right here is ready to put a pot on there, and we can have some trees. I might take this out for Thanksgiving if I have a tree in here that I think is worthy of a centerpiece for Thanksgiving. Nothing's in bloom and everything's kind of so we might put something on here, or we might have to wait until maybe the Christmas holiday time of year. So that is the update here. I was able to again do some touch-up work and make sure that this is all nice and shiny and smooth all the way throughout. I took out some of the bigger bumps on the bottom, and I'll put some pads on the bottom here, and we'll be able to showcase a tree right on the old Redwood tree right there. A couple more spots here. I still can see some spots. I can maybe do some more touch-up, so we'll see if we have some more touch-up work to do with that. And then the second part of this update is the grape wood. So I took the grape wood, and of course I had put the shellac on here, and that was done, but then I had to go and do the Flex Seal part. And here is a look at the Flex Seal. So I'll show you some of the footage of me spray painting this. So it kind of comes in a spray paint or in a jar you can paint it on. They come with Flex Seal tape you can get. So I of course put some blue masking tape on the wood to cover up the spots that were already shiny, and then I just had to spray the inside of the pot, or the soon-to-be pot. And I sprayed it with the Flex Seal, of course, because that gives it a really nice rubber coating, so it's waterproof, and then all the water will run off of here. We drilled some holes into this as well, so I had to take a drill bit and go through this, and I was pleasantly surprised that the drill bit, it was harder to work through than I anticipated. The wood is a lot stronger than I thought. I thought there was a lot of weakness to this and it was going to be really delicate, but it's still a really solid piece of wood. So we drilled the holes in there, and then we did all the Flex Seal spraying. So on the Flex Seal, I put on not one, not two, but 3 coats to make sure that there's enough rubber covering all the little spots. Now it looks like kind of like a topographical map. When you look down at it, it's got all the peaks and valleys. I'm ready to take off the tape and do a little reveal with you here to show you this update. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna peel off some of this tape. The tape was making sure that I only Flex Sealed what I wanted to Flex Seal, and it didn't go to the edges too close, because that'll be the shiny look of this pot. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and peel back all of this little bit of tape. I had to put them in small pieces parts so I could cover the right amount of nooks and crannies. I couldn't just lay a piece of tape like it was real flush. So we're gonna get this tape off here and take a peek at the result of the new pot. Now I was thinking I'll put some Spanish moss or Irish moss on here. I don't know if anything's going to be even in the stores Irish moss wise. I doubt it. I'm not going to find anything in November in Minnesota. So either I would order something online possibly and have a plant delivered, or you know what I love to do more than anything else is experiment with bonsai. So I've got so many cuttings down here of the trees I've been working with, the Premnas in particular. So I could put some cuttings in here and do a little repot with some new growth of roots on these cuttings and put it into this this old grape wood, which has now become kind of a pot. And I can always put moss in it later if the trees don't work out or when the trees are ready to get into a bigger pot. And I just do it to be fun, to have a little accent here. And so here is the finished product with the tape gone. So there's the view from that side. Let's spin it around for you, and this will be the view from that side. Whichever side will be the front, I don't know. I could put a little bit of a stump down at the bottom here maybe, or tilt it this way. I like that, because then it shows you the back side a little bit. So I could put a little bit of a stand back here. We've got the holes in there, so there's the 2 holes coming out, and there's Flex Seal all the way down to the bottom level. And let's take a peek inside. So there's the inside of the grape wood with all that Flex Seal painted on there, so it's going to protect from the water elements and make this last a long time. So now that's plenty deep. This is probably, oh, do I have a tape measure here? I do. Look at that. Let's see how deep it is. Down to the hole down there, it's at least 2 inches deep down to the hole there, maybe 1 inch to 2 inches deep throughout the little canyon here. So roots will have plenty of spots to move in there. We can also mound it up a little bit and we have ourselves a very unique pot that could have some fun tropical plants in here that I can always keep in the plant room in the wintertime to always have some fun looking assortment of pots and compositions. So super cool to see this come to fruition here with the Flex Seal. So as I look in closer inspection, the Flex Seal came all up real nice, made contact with where it was epoxied or the glaze, and so that's looking real good. Nice little section right there where there's a shiny wood there and then black right there. That looked real nice. That turned out pretty slick. So I think this worked out all right. So there is the inside, the Flex Seal part. This is all ready to make into a bonsai pot. So the only thing I have to do next is put a little bit of screen right here and screen right there, and then this will drain the water right out there, and we have a bonsai pot or a place for some moss or some kind of small accent plant. So super excited about how this turned out right there. So there is update number 2, the Redwood stand and the Grapewood pot. My final update for today is the boot tray that has all my cuttings in, including the key shoes with the heat mat underneath. So a couple episodes ago, I purchased a heat mat, and there's the heat mat, and it's on, and it's nice and cozy and warm. It took a long time to heat up. At first I was wondering if it was going to get warm or not, but it is getting warm. And then when I feel the bottom of these pots, they're actually slightly warm as well, just ever so slightly. And so I know that it's increasing the temperature of the roots of this just by a little bit when the rest of the air is a little bit cooler. So super nice to see if I can get some extra root growth here with my Premnas, and especially the Kishu Shimpaku, since some of them didn't take off as good. So it seems to be working so far. The boot tray, it's staying on, it's keeping things warm to the touch. And so that's super exciting. I got these cuttings from today's work, so I'm going to put these right in here, and we'll add it into a small pot and put it onto the boot tray, and hopefully get even some more bonsai down the road to give away, or who knows what we'll do with them. So hey, that does it for another one. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Click that like, subscribe if you haven't. I'd greatly appreciate it. Take care of you. Take care of your bonsai. Have a great, fantastic Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you very, very soon.